If your team does the work, but your invoicing doesn't capture it, you didn't just miss a line item. You gave away your margin. I'm Heath Thiel with TradeStack Digital. We build practical operating systems for contract owners, SOPs, checklists, documentation, closeout workflows, the boring stuff that keeps money from leaking. And today we're going to talk about one of the easiest leaks to miss, and that's unbilled work. And this happens a lot more often than a lot of contractor owners would want to admit. Not because you're bad at business, not because nobody really cares. Usually it's because the job changes in the field, but the invoice never catches up. That's the catch leak that we're talking about today. Unbilled work. And unbilled work usually doesn't look dramatic. It's not always some huge job that never got invoiced. Most of the time it's small, a little extra labor here, a material that got added there. The customer asked for one more thing while the tech was on site. A helper stayed longer than expected on a job. A return trip happened, but nobody really tracked why. The work got done, but the customer got the benefit, and the business never charged for it. And that's the problem. Because work done is not the same as work billed. A lot of owners assume that if the job was completed, the money was handled. But that's not always the case, and it's not always true. There's a gap between what happens in the field and what shows up on the final invoice. And that gap can get expensive. Let's say it's only 2 missed billing events per week. Not 2 entire jobs, just 2 moments where something should have been charged and it wasn't. Maybe one was $250, maybe one was $400. Maybe one was a small material upgrade. Maybe one was an extra hour or 2 of labor. Each one by itself doesn't seem like much, but if that were to happen every week, now it's not a small mistake. It's a system problem. And that's where owners can get hurt. Because nobody sees it as one big failure. It just blends into the day. The tech was trying to help the customer. The office was trying to get the invoice out. The owner already pulled in 10 different directions. And by the time everybody moves onto the next job, that extra work is gone. Not physically gone. The work happened. The time was spent. The materials were used and the truck rolled. Payroll still hits, but the charge never made it to the invoice. That is margin leaving the business quietly. And this is why documentation matters. Not corporate fluff paperwork, not just busy work. Talking about a basic job protection plan. What changed? What was added? What materials were used? What extra labor was needed? Did the customer approve it? Did that change make it onto the invoice? If the answer depends on someone remembering it later, that's where the leak starts. And I get why this happens. Most trade businesses are moving fast. The phones keep ringing around the clock. The schedule keeps changing. Customers want answers. Techs are trying to finish the job on time. The owner is bouncing between pricing, payroll, callbacks, whatever fire started that morning. So small billing details get pushed to later. but later is where money goes to disappear. Here's the practical move. Pull your last 10 completed jobs, look at your original estimate, look at the job notes, look at materials used, look at the labor time recorded, then look at the final invoice. And ask one simple question. Did we bill for what actually occurred on the job? Not what we planned for, not what we hoped to have happened, what actually happened. If the invoice does not match the work, you found a cash leak. This is not about nickel and diming good customers. That's not the point of this. This is about training your business to absorb cost it should have captured. Because if your team keeps doing extra work for free, you're not just being helpful. You're teaching the business to give away your profit. That's the operating principle here in this lesson. Work done is not the same as work billed. If the field and the invoice can't connect, the business pays for that gap. In the next lesson, we'll talk about callbacks. Because callbacks are not just annoying, they are margin quite literally walking out the door. Systems, structure, scale.